As you look at the NFL teams across the league, there are a lot of young, exciting teams on the rise, whether that be the Commanders, the Bears, the Patriots have a lot to look forward to. The Cardinals, I think, could be sneaky good next year. There's a lot of interesting sleeper teams in the league right now. But if you look at the opposite end, the older teams that have a big payroll, I think the Saints might be in the worst position of all 32 NFL teams. They are nearly minus $90 million in the cap. They're paying Derek Carr a lot of money. They don't really have a lot of young, exciting assets. Chris Olave has really not been able to stay healthy for them. They just extended Alvin Kamara. It just feels like a mess, and this team doesn't have a head coach. Now, it looks like Kellen Moore is going to be getting that job. We are going to be doing this mock draft with that in mind, that Kellen Moore will be the head coach. But where do the Saints go from here? What type of moves do the Saints organization need to make to get back to relevancy? Because they've kind of flirted with the playoffs the last few years, haven't been good enough to make the playoffs, haven't been bad enough to have a top 3 pick. What can we do for the Saints to get them over the hump and get them back into NFC South contention? That's what we're going to be attempting to do in this 7-round mock draft. If you guys are new to the channel, we're doing one of these for all 32 NFL teams. We will be going in draft order. This is the 9th episode of the series, and the Saints own the 9th overall pick. A little bit of housekeeping before we get started. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button if you guys are new to the channel. And be sure to check out my Patreon page. I'll leave that linked down in the description below. There, you guys will be able to access my full draft guide with over 500 different draft prospects, scouting reports, stats, combine and pro day numbers, measurables, all the information you guys need for all the prospects we take and potential prospects that we didn't take. Be sure to go check that out. It's only $5 a month, and I think it's the best resource that you guys can find on the market. But let's kick this off and get it started with the New Orleans Saints. We're going to get this started in a different way than we've done for any other mock draft. I'm going to have the Saints trade back in this one. The Indianapolis Colts came calling. They're willing to give us 14 and 45. The Saints have so many holes on the roster: quarterback, receiver, tight end, O-line. And that's just on the offensive side. They need a pass rusher. They need linebacker help. They need secondary help. The point is, I want to move back in this draft and get some extra draft capital and kind of see the way the cards fall in the board. I don't love a lot of the prospects here at 9 for me. You got a prospect in mind at 14. So I'm going to move back 5 spots, pick up an extra second. We do have to throw in a 4th next year to get the deal to go through. But I think this is a really good start to the draft for the Saints. All right, here we are on the board at pick 14. I think the Saints are in desperate need of a pass rusher, a true edge rusher, a guy that can come off, defend the run, yes, but you need a guy that can get after the quarterback. This team has been lacking in that department for it seems like 4 or 5 years now. You go back, I believe they were 3rd or 4th in the league in sacks just 2 years ago, but they were towards the bottom of the league in terms of pressure percentage. This is a team that has not been able to create any sort of consistent pressure, and that's going to be a big concern. They drafted Isaiah Foskey. He's not really panned out for them up to this point. Chase Young, they signed last offseason. He was on a 1-year deal. You need a young guy to come in here. And I know that a lot of people are going to be like, oh, let's take Michael Williams or let's take Jalen Walker. If I'm the Saints, I don't want to do that again. We've done this with Peyton Turner. We've done this with these young athletic edge rushers that you think you can develop. I'm not going down that route again if I'm the Saints. I want to go get a guy that I can trust to come in right away and be a difference maker for me. And the edge class is loaded. Don't get me wrong. You got Jalen Walker. James Pierce, I took in the Panthers mock draft, so we're just going to pretend he's off the board in this scenario. Nick Scorton, really fun edge rusher. Had a bit of a down year. I do like him quite a bit, though. Shamar Stewart is a name I think fits Dennis Allen's scheme. Don't know that he fits the new Saints regime scheme. I'm looking at Mike Green from Marshall, and I know a lot of people are going to say the size is going to be a concern. I'm not worried about it. This guy is an absolute menace. 6'3", 251 pounds. We mentioned the size concerns. It really comes at the 32.25-inch arms, but he's just one of the most dynamic pass rushers in the draft class. Tons of pass rush moves, can convert speed to power. He's a great run defender. There's so much to like. He's coming from small school competition. I get it. But he just dominated at the Senior Bowl just last week. He's my number 6 player in the draft, my number 2 edge rusher in the draft class. He's a special type of player. And for the Saints, he's a guy I think who can move all over the defensive line. You want to play him as a 4-3 edge, I think he can do that. If you want to play him in a designated pass rush role, he can do that. If you're going to play him in a 3-4 as an outside linebacker, he can do that. This is a really, really good draft prospect with a ton of athleticism, tons of power, tons of juice. It is a perfect way to kick off this draft if you're the Saints. I think this is a home run if you can get him here. I'm going to take Mike Green at number 14. At 40, this is where I'm going to invest some serious draft capital into a quarterback. If you look at the Saints over the past couple of drafts, they went out and they drafted Spencer Rattler in the 5th round. Was lucky he fell into their laps. Not really your guy that you think could be a franchise quarterback. You drafted Jake Haener. Same situation. Neither of those guys have looked particularly good when they've been on the field, and you need a long-term solution at the quarterback position. I know this is a weak quarterback class. I get it, and I know there's going to be a lot of people upset about the pick. The Jackson Dart hype is really interesting to me. He had a nice week at the Senior Bowl. I wouldn't say he blew anybody away, but certainly had a positive week. And I think he is going to end up playing himself into the top of the 2nd round, maybe between rounds 2 and 3. And I personally am very conflicted on this because the tools are there. He's got a fantastic arm. He's got really good athleticism. This is a guy that played the position well at Ole Miss. You got him on the run. He made good throws on the run, heavy RPO type of offense. I really like that about him. He's got the arm strength. The accuracy has been really, really sharp for him throughout his collegiate career. And I don't like to throw this word around, but there is an aura around Jackson Dart, the way he plays the position. He's tough. He embraces contact. You like to see that from him. I still think he's got a lot of things that he needs to fix in his game, though. Stares down his reads way too often. Comes from an offense where really all of his throws seemed predetermined. It seemed like he knew where he was going to go with the ball before he threw it. I don't exactly love that. But for the Saints, I think this is a nice spot to at least develop him. I know a lot of people in the community really love Jackson Dart. I know a lot of people don't. He's one of the more polarizing prospects in the class. At 40, I'm willing to take a chance on a guy that I think has tools and I think has a higher ceiling than the guys you've drafted. I don't want to wait until round 4, round 5 and end up with a Kyle McCord or Riley Leonard, guys that I just don't think are going to be long-term solutions. So I'm going to take Jackson Dart here at 40. I know that's going to be a controversial one, but I'm going to invest an early pick to try and get a quarterback for this team. At number 45, I think there's a lot of different ways that the Saints team can go, but I want to go get a long-term defensive back. And Nick Emmanwori is still on the board. This is a guy that I've seen get taken as high as 21. I think Daniel Jeremiah had him go 21 in his most recent mock. Nick Emmanwori is an awesome draft prospect, a player that is my number 3 safety in the draft, but that's not indicative of how I feel. He's a top 40 player for me. Really, really impressive athlete. He's got some of the best size in the draft class. 6'3", 227 pounds. He's only 20 years old. He took snaps everywhere for South Carolina. You could play him single high. You could play him in the slot, but a guy that I think thrives in the box. He's really physical in coverage, has good closing speed, has good ball skills, is an absolute freak athlete. I do think he's got to work on his play strength. I thought he had some ups and downs as a tackler, but this is one of those players that I've watched a ton of tape on. I absolutely love him. And for the Saints, I think you could play him in a lot of interesting spots. This is a guy that a lot of people are saying you could make a linebacker at the next level. He just needs to add on about 15 pounds. He could be a linebacker for you. But I think he's going to be a safety in this scheme. Yes, you still have Tyrann Mathieu for one more year. I like some of the other guys that you have, but this is a guy that learning under the Honey Badger could be a huge boost for him. I'm going to take him. I think this is really great value for a guy that I think could be a really nice defensive back in the NFL. So I'm going to take Nick Emmanwori here at 45. At pick 71 here for the Saints, I want to address the offensive line. The offensive line had its moments this year. It certainly did. I think the interior looked better than what we've seen. Eric McCoy, really solid for this team. The right tackle spot is going to be a position of concern. Ryan Ramczyk's got 1 year left on his deal. He's coming off a pretty significant injury that could be potentially career ending for him. You need a long term tackle solution here. And one of the big winners of the Senior Bowl was NC State's Anthony Belton. Had incredible measurements. This is a really intriguing player. 6'5", 345 pounds, 10 and a quarter inch hands, 34 and 5/8 inch arms, and an 83 and an eighth inch wingspan. He's a good athlete, moves well into the second level. I think he showed excellent footwork, pop with his hands, and is a really strong player. I think this is the prototypical right tackle for your team. You drafted Talise Fuaga last year, who was really good as a rookie. Go get your other tackle. And I actually don't mind playing him at guard earlier on in his career because of his athleticism, similar to the Mekhi Becton role. I really like Anthony Belton. He's going to be a guy you're going to see in second, third round mocks over the next few weeks because he was so dominant at the Senior Bowl. It was one of the biggest standouts for me. A little plug here. Did an interview with him this past offseason. He's wired the right way, loves playing that offensive line position, which does matter for these guys. He's physical, he's tough, he's strong, he's athletic. This is a really good player. I love the value here. I'm going to take Anthony Belton at pick 71. At pick 93, I'm really worried about the Saints receiving room long term. Rashid Shaheed's coming off a pretty significant injury. Chris Olave was dealing with concussions for a large portion of the season. I really like A.T. Perry. Shout out Wake Forest. But unfortunately, I think they need another weapon in this offense. They need a guy that can be that weapon for you consistently, that you can trust to stay on the field. And I'm looking at Savion Williams from TCU. Now, really polarizing draft prospect. I think the highs with Savion Williams are phenomenal. I think he shows some excellent tools. He's 6'1". He's 214 pounds. I love the measurables with him. The concern you're going to have are the drops. He had 7 drops in 2024, which you don't like to see. But get this, 85.7% contested catch rating, which is absolutely unbelievable. He's physical, he's strong, and he's really, really fast. And I think you can use him like in that Cordero Patterson role. You got Taysom Hill. I think this could be like a Taysom Hill type of replacement. He's a wild card. He's a gadget player you can play all over the field, in the boundary, in the slot. If he adds on a little bit of weight, I could see him playing tight end. Like, Savion Williams is a really unique athlete and one that's not going to get out of the top 100 just because I think the tools are all there. And if you can get a physical weapon to complement Chris Olave, I actually really like that. He's not really nuanced as a route runner just yet, but he's got a lot of traits and a lot of tools. And I think that's what the Saints team should be addressing. You need to be trying to swing for the fences, get some upside. Savion Williams fits. I think he's a perfect complement. And I love a trio of Rashid Shaheed in the slot, Chris Olave, and Savion Williams. I think that's a great trio. So I'm going to take Savion Williams here at 93. Here at number 111, really tough board right now. Not a lot of guys that fell. Elijah Arroyo, I know everyone's going to see him on the board. He will not be on the board here at 111. I'm just not going to take him here because I just think it's unrealistic. I try and keep a little bit of realism in these drafts. So I'm kind of looking at other tight ends because Taysom Hill's a free agent next year. Juwan Johnson's a free agent this year. And I think you need to upgrade this tight end room. I really liked Dallin Holker last year. Your undrafted free agent pickup. Didn't really see much from him as a rookie. I want to go get a guy that can do a little bit of everything. And I'm looking at Terrence Ferguson out of Oregon, a guy I thought had a really strong week. I thought he showed better athleticism than what we saw. He was physical, played well against tight coverages, which you like to see. He's way more fluid of an athlete than I think we give him credit for. 6'4", 245 pounds, 80-inch wingspan, 9.5-inch hands. This is a guy that I don't know how dynamic he'll be after the catch, but he knows how to get open. You played him in line, play him in the slot, really reliable hands, pretty sharp route runner, knows how to get open. And I think he's a good blocker in space. Does disengage early at times, but at 111, I think this is a steal for Terrence Ferguson. I've got him as a second to third round player Where's Terrence Ferguson on my big board right now? Let's find that out. I got Terrence Ferguson as my number 88 overall prospect. So to get him here at 111, I think is phenomenal value here as a day 3 tight end that gives you a little bit of juice in the receiving game. I love it. I'm going to take Terrence Ferguson here at 111. At pick number 130, now I'm starting to really get a plan for my last few picks, and I love the way the board has fallen for us here. Interior defensive line, big concern for me long term with the Saints. Kalen Saunders is a free agent next year. You're going to need to upgrade that spot. Brian Brzee, he's shown flashes. That's more your 3-tech, a guy that's going to play as your pass rushing guy. You need a more consistent run stuffer in the middle. And I think that if I'm the Saints, that's what I'm looking to address. I'm looking for a primary nose tackle, and a guy that ended up falling right into our laps. He's going to get taken higher than where he's on the board. Get ready to see CJ West in a lot more mock drafts because CJ West was awesome at the Shrine Bowl. I thought he had one of the most dominant weeks down in Dallas. He won with power. He won with speed. He showed counter moves, which really wasn't on his tape a lot in Indiana. His power profile is phenomenal. He's 6 foot, 314 pounds. Doesn't have the ideal length. This is a guy that profiles best as a nose tackle because he's a very good run defender. He's really strong, can take on double teams really well. I love him. I think he's a fantastic player. I think he complements Brian Brzee in the middle of this defense so well. And now you got Mike Green flying off the edge. Brian Brzee can rush the passer a little bit from the inside. Then you got CJ West just stuffing run lanes, just being a dynamic player. CJ West is going to be my pick here at 130. I absolutely love the value, and I think he's a guy that's being slept on in this simulator, to be totally honest with you. We want to talk about how high he is on my board. He's my number 114 player. I'm going to take CJ West here at 130. At 186, after the Marshawn Lattimore trade, the secondary is a big concern. We took Nick Emanwari earlier. I love that. I'm looking for a corner, a guy that I can play on the boundary, presumably, and a guy that I think could be a potential piece for you. Here at 186, you're usually betting on upside. You're betting on a guy that maybe could be a rotational guy for you. But BJ Adams being on the board here, or Brandon Adams out of UCF, I think is phenomenal value. I'm way higher on him than consensus, I think. I have him as a 4th to 5th round player. I think he's a really good corner. He shows some really good upside. I've got him as my number 174 prospect in this class. And look, I think he's got good size. 6'1", 186, a little bit on the slender side. 32.25-inch arm, 76-inch wingspan. Solid numbers. I don't think he is the most impressive athlete in the world, but he can stop and go on a dime. He's physical in man coverage. I think he's got really good closing speed, and his length is going to be a major factor and why I'm drafting him here at 186. You need another lockdown corner. Paulson Adebo was fine for you. You got some interesting pieces, I guess, but you need a guy that I think could be a long-term answer. I would have liked to go corner higher. The board just didn't fall. But I think BJ Adams here at 186 is fantastic value, so I'm going to take him here to kind of shore up the back end a little bit more. With my final pick here at 254, I'm going to take a shot in the dark here at one of the biggest wild cards in the entire draft, and that's going to be Thomas Perry from Middlebury College. A lot of you probably haven't heard this name, and for good reason. He's a Division III player, but he got the call up to the Shrine Bowl, had a really good week. He looked strong. He looks the part athletically. He's going to be a really interesting name to kind of figure out where NFL teams value him, because you've seen some of these really small Division II, Division III guys get taken in day 2 because the athleticism is there. I like him here at the back end of the 7th round. I don't know very much about him, to be totally honest with you. I haven't watched the tape, but from what I have seen, he's got the right measurables. He looked athletic. He looked the part. He was 6'2", 311, 9 1/8-inch hands, 31 5/8-inch arms, and 78 1/4-inch wingspan. Overall, not too bad numbers for a guy that's going to be a guard. I'm just taking a shot in the dark here for a guy that I think has upside to be a starting guard at the next level. The guard spots, I'm not in love with. I don't hate it, but I think taking a player like this could be a home run if this pick hits. So we're going to take him here to finish off our draft at 254. Well, there we have it, Saints fans. My 7-round New Orleans Saints mock draft. Got a quarterback of the future, improved the defensive line, got some new weapons for the offense. I like this draft. I think this draft turned out really nice, but I'd love to hear from you guys. How do you guys feel? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Which picks would you rather be made? Which picks do you not like? We'd love to hear it down in the comment section. Leave a like on this video. Subscribe if you are new. I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios.